Om Ye Dharma Hetu Brahma Hetum Desham Tathagato Yavata Desham Sayo Nirodham Evam Vati Mahashramanaye Swaha. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetum Desham Tathagato Yavata Desham Chayo Nirodham Evam Vadi Mahashramanaye Swaha. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetum Desham Tathagato Yavata Desham Chayo Nirodha Evam Vadi Mahashramanaye Swaha. Okay, we are discussing about the second level of the suffering change. Suffering change. So what we said is all contaminated, all what we identified as suffering, all what we can anybody can easily identify suffering is known as suffering, the first suffering. Whereas the second suffering is a suffering which most of the people cannot identify them as suffering. Which most people cannot identify them as suffering. So that is the contaminated or the worldly, mundane, worldly happiness or the mundane happiness. That is the suffering change. This is what we said. We should be very precise. Then the next question is, in what way it's not just, okay, this is said by the Buddha, no. So we have to understand it. We have to understand it, and it should make sense to us. As to how in mundane happiness, for example, enjoying a juice or enjoying, say, the joy of, say, the cheesecake or whatever. So, in what way it is suffering in the first place? Then number two, it is referred to as the change, suffering change. In what way? Number one, it is identified as suffering for the reason that this is actually a bait. For example, say how many of you know what bait is? Raise your hands. What bait is? Okay, can anyone explain what bait is?
It's the worm on the hook for a fish.
Say it again.
It's the worm on the hook of a fish when you're fishing.
Okay, the worm on the hook
for fishing, so
to catch the fish. Okay. Okay, worm.
Makeup of
Say it again.
makeup.
The makeup of the woman. Your woman.
Okay, let us not go into that complication. Okay, let us not go into that complication. Okay, so let's say the bait. The bait are saying the trap. For example, the wild animals, to catch the wild animals, in the cage they put some food. And the wild animals, they come and then they think that they are getting the food there. They go into it and then trapped. Likewise the fish, the worms or any food. The bait should be delicious one or it should be not delicious one? Delicious one. delicious one is expensive. So why don't you put not delicious one? Okay. So deliberately it should be attractive. If it's not attractive, it will not catch us, catch the beings. So likewise, we are okay. Let's say the fish, they go to the what's that, hook. Fish, they go to the hook, and the wild animals, they go into the cage. They go into the trap. What made the wild animals go into the trap? They happen to go into the trap, or they are deceived. They are deceived. What do we mean deceived? Deceived by what? Because of the bait, the food there, because of the food. And the food must be a very delicious one. If it's not delicious, nobody will come there. Whereas, if the animal knows that this is bait, will they go there? They will not go there. These animals, before they go there, they are so cautious. Is this real food? Or this is some kind of trap? They are very cautious. For example, the birds. How they do, for example, the bird trap is there. You sprinkle some of the grains there inside the trap. You'll first go in and go out very fast. Like the rats in the trap, they'll go in and they'll go fast. Before they jump to the food, they will go in and go out fast to see whether there is any threat there. And they feel safe that, okay, now this is safe, this is real food, it's not a bait. Then they eat it, then they're trapped. Okay, so if they know that this is a trap, will they go in? They will never go in. They will never go in. Okay, tell me, did you ever notice the animals? How the animals behave? Like the cats, the dogs. When they come to know that there's a bait, they stay away from that. Did you see such things in your life? It was one time, I remember, it was in my monastery, there was a dog. And the one boy was wanted to play with the dog, and the dog was not ready to play. But I could sense that the dog is a little thirsty. So the boy sensed that the dog was thirsty, tried to make the dog come close to him. So he was bringing some water, and the dog was not going there, because the dog knows that once he's there, again he will not get rest. This is what the dog senses. So the dog stayed up. I was so fascinated. So the moment they sense that this is a bait, even the animals will not go close there. Okay, so the bait, when we say the food, this is positive. When you say bait, this is negative. Do you agree with me? Bait is happiness or suffering? Bait is a very vicious suffering. It's not just suffering, it's a vicious suffering. It's so vicious suffering. So, what traps us in samsara? We don't want sickness. We don't want aging. We don't want death. We don't want all these unending problems. This place, where the place marked by sickness, aging, death, unending problems, all mental agitations, this place is known as samsara. And who traps us in samsara? What's the bait? What's the bait?
Pleasures.
Samsaric pleasures, samsaric happiness. This is what traps us in samsara. In fact, if we truly understand it, say, oftentimes, people when they end up in suffering, they come to realize that this is so vicious, so vicious. Okay, just recently, say there's one family, and they say two sisters, and they have the two children, and one of the child is disabled, physically disabled, and then needs like 24 hours attention. Very difficult. And this is like the the auntie was taking care of these two. For all these many years, she was taking care of the two children, and the mother of the two children is in another country. So for all these many years, the auntie was taking care of the sister, other sister was taking care of the two young children. One was totally disabled, physically disabled. Now this auntie, she felt so tired, exhausted, like burnout. Not getting even a short period of time for her to rest well. So finally, the two children, they got the document to travel to join the mother. So this auntie is going to be relieved. But there's a problem. What problem? Again, the auntie is going to miss the two children. If the two children are with the auntie, she's not getting rest. She is just getting so tired and the burnout. And when two of them left, she's going to have the pain of missing the two children. So what to do? This is samsara. If you're together, there's a problem. If you're separate, there's a problem. So this is samsara. What trapped us in samsara? That's the thing. What trapped us in samsara? Who pushed us into samsara? Who forced us into samsara? This is the question. Right? So there must be something there. What pulls the fish towards the hook? What draws the fish towards the hook? Because of the bait. What draws the wild animals into the trap? Because of the food, the bait there. Likewise, what draws us into samsara? Because of the contaminated happiness. Because of the mundane, samsaric happiness. Okay, so ordinary people, we see this as happiness. This is not suffering. What's wrong with this? This is happiness. So they don't, as long as they don't identify this as suffering, this as bad, they will never be free from suffering. They will never be free from samsara. Okay. So this is how that the contaminated happiness or mundane happiness is suffering, because these are the bait. Bait means it's very viciously suffering. Now the change. Once the suffering is explained, how that suffering is explained, then the next is how it is a suffering change. Okay. So with this, the consequence is that you are in samsara. That we are in samsara with sickness, aging, death, and so forth. This is the problem. This consequence. This consequence is all because of failing to see the bait as bait. Failing to see the bait as bait, instead misconceiving the bait as real happiness. Okay, that's it. Now the next question is, if this is the case, then yes, renunciation means to renounce the bait. To renounce bait means to renounce good house, good cars, and the good food and so forth. Okay, this is where the very subtle misconceptions can happen, misleading can happen. Okay, now the point is that these are problems. We have to acknowledge that. And this acknowledgement is far, far subtler. For some people, when they first encounter with the suffering, the very gross suffering, when encounter with suffering, some people, they are pulled towards dharma more. By encountering the suffering, then they are pulled towards dharma more. They turn their mind closer towards dharma. Some people, they run away from dharma. So those people, when they encounter with the severe suffering, they are drawn closer towards dharma, means they are very fortunate people. Whereas those people, oh, now what's the point of dharma? It's just meaningless. I've done nothing bad. Now I'm going through all this suffering back to back. So I give up dharma. This is the indication of a person being not so meritorious. Whereas those people who go through these difficulties in life and their mind turns towards dharma more and more, these people are meritorious people. Very meritorious. One. Then number two. But meritorious doesn't mean that now you are into the spiritual path. This is no point. This is the first test. First test you have cleared. Suffering, it takes us to the dharma. Very good. And then when suffering disappears, again you disappear dharma. This is another where suffering disappears, then you have the suffering change. Okay, now you are successful, what the world considers as success. This is nothing but suffering change. So then people tend to forget the Dharma. Usually, in the Dharma centers, young people are rarely found. Young people are rarely found. Oh, I have no time, I have a job, I have this, I have that. Okay, so because that is what the world considers as the peak of their success. Peak of success. Peak of success is actually a form of suffering change. But it doesn't mean that, okay, now the suffering, that is also suffering. So we have to give up all the money and happiness. This is not the point. Okay, let us not forget this. For example, to have a good food, to have a good house. There's nothing wrong with this. To have a very successful life, meaning mundane successful life, there's nothing wrong in it. To have wealth, there's nothing wrong in it. What's wrong? The wrong is, somebody said, that our mind is glued to that, attached to that. That's the problem. That's the problem. To have wealth, to have good cars, to have good house, no problem. Where is the problem is when we feel attached to them. That's the problem. So therefore, renunciation is for the very ordinary people, who wants, oh, I want to get out of samsara. If you really want to get out of samsara, you have to cut your attachment to samsara. To cut the attachment to samsara, the moment I see the, say, cheese chocolate, I cannot get out of it. I get glued in. So keep away the cheesecake. Not because cheesecake is bad. Because the moment the cheesecake is there, you lose your control. You lose your control. The moment the alcohol is there, you lose your control. The moment something pleasurable is there, you lose your control. So for that matter, see how to stay away. Stay away from this. So one step taken for a very beginner is to take these objects away. That's the point. Okay. Whereas, when your mind becomes very stable, grounded, where even though you see good things, but you don't feel attached to this, there's nothing wrong with it. What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it. Okay. But the thing is that total obsession to the material wealth, and say not at all thinking about the next life after, that's the problem. Okay, so therefore, the suffering change. When we say the suffering change, yes, mundane happiness are all suffering change. Yes, there's suffering change. Why there's suffering change? Because of this, then we are attached. We are trapped. We are trapped means we and the suffering change, the happiness there. This happiness pulls us. We are weak. We are weak. So when we are pulled by something, which means that we are weak. If we are very strong, the object cannot pull us. If the object doesn't pull us, then we, even though you partake or you enjoy the object, you enjoy the cheesecake or whatever, but if you don't feel attached to this, then you are not trapped. Trap is happening when the object pulls you down. What pulls you down? The object does not really pull you down. Your attachment pulls you down. So that's the problem. Whereas suffering, everybody wants to get away from. But suffering change is the one which pulls us into samsara. So what is to be thought of when you say renunciation is to renounce, not renounce good house, good food and so forth, but to renounce attachment to the good house and good food and so forth. To have a good house, there's no problem. To have a good car is no problem. But the attachment to the good cars, good house, and so forth, this is a problem. Okay, so this is suffering change. Thomas, your question?
You say, so I don't have to use dharma to live fine in samsara. I have to use dharma to get out.
Okay, what is dharma for? Dharma, various levels of dharma. Very basic dharma, then the very refined dharma. So we talk about what is known as the three stages of the path. The path meant for the small scope person, path meant for the middle scope person, a path meant for the great scope person. The path meant for the small scope person, meaning that the beings who cannot think about getting out of samsara, but say within samsara there are two. One, evident pain, and the happiness, mundane happiness. Two, evident pain meaning hell realm, omnibus realm, and animal realm. So these three are anybody thinks about it, I don't want to go there. Whereas human realm, then asuras, then god and goddesses, oh that's nice. So this is what we call as the favorable birth and unfavorable birth. So the first unfavorable birth, everybody sees this as a problem. Favorable birth, many people see this as good. There's nothing wrong with it. Favorable birth. But the favorable birth has a problem. What is that? Favorable birth means mundane happiness. Mundane happiness is the one which traps us continuously in samsara. So the wise people who are very far-sighted, who are very knowledgeable, who are so wise, they will not only see the unfavorable birth as a problem, they will also see the favorable birth within samsara as a problem. Because as long as you are inside the samsara, this is a problem. Sickness, aging, death, and again going back to the same suffering once more. These just endlessly they perpetuate. These problems perpetuate endlessly. Okay, this is, so those teachings meant for the beginners to say that, okay, so make sure that you don't take birth in low realms next time. For that you have to practice the discipline or refraining from 10 non-virtuous actions. This is one set of teaching. The next set of teaching is for people who are more mature. It's not that the people, some are gifted as a more mature, some are less gifted with it. This is not the point. We can become more mature. Everyone has the capacity to become more mature. For that matter, we have to study more. We have to increase our wisdom knowledge, then we become more and more mature. As we become more mature, then we see that even you take birth as a human being, it's just a temporary, within that there's a problem, sickness, aging, that all these things are there. And then the say that even the human birth, it is a lifespan. The moment lifespan exhausts, again you can take birth in any of the other forms, any time. So it's just a very short temporary relief. There's no lasting relief. I must look for a lasting relief. This is what the wise people will look for. What is the lasting relief? Get out of samsara. Okay, this is the point. You're getting it? Okay, with this, what we learned is that the suffering of change is all worldly happiness is known as suffering of change. How there is suffering of change? For that we have to know two things. That it is suffering. Then number two, that is suffering change. Change, suffering. Number one, how is that the mundane happiness suffering? Tell me. Anybody? How is the mundane happiness the suffering? Suffering of suffering, mundane happiness is known as suffering change. In the first place, to be suffering change, you should be suffering. How is that suffering? Anybody?
Because it traps you in samsara.
Because it is a bait. It's a bait, right? Bait, this is a very beautiful word, bait. Bait has two connotations. One, it is delicious. Number two, it is vicious. The same word has these two connotations. It's a very powerful word. Bait. It is delicious, which means samsaric happiness. It is vicious, it traps us in samsara. Right? It's a bait. Then the next part is why it is known as change, suffering change. While even though it is seen as happiness, it invariably changes. It is not lasting. It will invariably change into manifest suffering. The first suffering. First, it is suffering. In the first place, it is suffering. How is suffering? It is a bait. Done. Next part is change. It is known as suffering change. Why is it as change? Even what we see as a happiness, mundane happiness, even this will not last as a mundane happiness. It will invariably change into manifest suffering, suffering. Right? Okay, if somebody tells you what is suffering change, don't just say that, okay, the happiness, being in the sun, and you feel hot, then you go to the shade, then you feel happy, and then in the shade you stay long, then you feel cold. You are mixing everything, you are not articulating it. Right? So feeling cold is not a suffering change, it's suffering. It's the first suffering. What is suffering change? Is feeling pleasurable in the shade. That is suffering change. So how is suffering change? First you have to explain how there is suffering. Because that is the bait. In what way is a bait? It traps us in samsara. It traps us in samsara. It's very delicious, it's very nice for us. But it traps us in samsara. It's a bait. So then, once it explains the suffering, oh yes, it's a bait. The moment you say there is a bait, nobody will go there. Nobody will go there. The moment you realize there is a bait, nobody will go there. Which means something wrong is there. Something's wrong with it. Once you know this, then the question is suffering change. How is that referred to suffering change? Even that what the ordinary people say as happiness is not lasting, it will change into suffering. Okay. What is number 3? Pervasive conditioned suffering. Okay, now quick. Anybody? Give me some examples of pervasive conditioned suffering. Anybody? Yes.
Maybe uncontrolled death.
Okay, uncontrolled death. Meaning, uncontrolled death meaning?
But,
Involuntary death.
yeah, we don't know when it's going to happen, we don't know how to stop it, and we don't know how to take rebirth as well. In what form we can choose.
Okay, involuntary death is what he's saying. Involuntary death is suffering, right? The first suffering. Third suffering is the subtlest, don't forget it. The first one is the grossest, second one is subtlest, third one is the subtlest. All people can identify the first suffering. Very less number of people can identify the suffering change. Even lesser will identify the suffering of suffering. No. Many the pervasive conditioned suffering. Okay. So the suffering of death. That is the involuntary death is a suffering. Everybody identifies that. Nobody likes that, right? Okay. The Patrick.
Le fait d'avoir des agrégats, c'est la souffrance.
Okay, let us listen. This is so important. This is so important. The pervasive conditioned suffering, the third one. Without understanding the third one, no way by which we can be liberated from samsara. Without identifying the third one, no way by which we can experience the fearlessness. Somehow we have to subject ourselves to fears all the time. You're getting it? This is so important. Okay, Patrick, what is the third one? Pervasive conditioned suffering.
Le fait d'avoir des agrégats nous crée cette souffrance all pervasive.
The fact of having the aggregates.
The fact of?
Having those aggregates.
Okay, the fact of having aggregates. The Buddha's aggregates?
Yes. No. They contaminate aggregates.
Okay, don't just say aggregates, right? Aggregates is not a problem. Contaminated aggregates. Having the contaminated aggregates is a problem. Very good. Okay, anyone else? What is the pervasive condition suffering? Okay, Dominic?
Le mal de vivre un malaise constant, se sentir perpétuellement mal dans sa peau, avoir survivre plutôt que vivre, être tout le temps dans la peine.
The fact to survive instead of living, or to feel bad constantly. To feel bad constantly, or to survive instead of to live.
Okay, feel bad just to survive instead of living, happily living, just survive. That is a burden, right? Everybody identifies this as a problem. Everybody identifies this as a problem. Just surviving. That is, nobody wants to lead a very boring life. You know, survive means very boring life. Just to survive for the sake of survival. not living. Okay, this I would say suffering. Okay, Tashila?
Gross affliction.
Huh?
Gross affliction.
Gross afflictions. Gross afflictions. Okay. Okay, let's all listen to what others are saying. Gross afflictions, we'll discuss on this. So, Anna-Sophie?
Le fait d'avoir des perceptions avec l'ignorance, le fait de percevoir les choses tout en ayant de l'ignorance.
The fact to perceive things with ignorance.
Okay, to see things as nice with ignorance.
That's nice.
Then,
Even neutral things
then
with ignorance.
to see the Buddha as objectively real. Okay, Laura.
I was going to say the same thing as, I was going to say contaminated aggregates, but he's already said it.
Okay, contaminated aggregates. The answer is yes. Contaminated aggregates. This is a pervasive condition suffering. Yes. Anybody else?
C'est de ne pas savoir comment vivre et pourquoi vivre. Parce qu'on prend pour réel ce qui est irréel.
So not to know how to live and why we live, and the fact to take something unreal as real.
Say again.
The fact to take something which is unreal as real.
Or seeing something unreal as real.
And le premier c'était not to know how to live and why we live. How to
Okay.
live our existence and how.
Okay, how to live how to live? What's the answer?
Yeah. We don't have a goal from
Okay.
our life.
Okay, so leading a life with a goal is not pervasive condition suffering. Is what you're saying?
Because when we don't have a goal, we
Okay, leading a life without a goal. Okay, leading a life without a goal, I would say that this falls under the first or the second, not the third one. Because leading a life without a goal is something, even if you have the goal, still it is the pervasive condition suffering. Even if you have the goal. For example, my goal is to become a billionaire. Right? I have a goal. My goal is to have a good house.
Ouais, quand je veux dire but, c'est-à-dire le but pour le bonheur des autres et non pas pour notre bonheur propre à nous.
So when he says goal, this goal will be the happiness for others and not only for oneself.
Okay, then Shirava was the Pradik brothers. Shirava was the Pradik brothers, they have no goal. Okay, anybody else? Bus?
I think not knowing what's coming and the fear of that, and not the freedom having to not choose something that happens.
Say it again.
The
The fear.
or the not knowing what is going to come, and not having the freedom.
The fear of not knowing what is going to come.
Yeah.
The fear, is that something people like or don't like?
No, it's more like not having the freedom to choose something else.
Okay, that you are saying a very good point. Yes, not having the freedom to choose something else. What is that something else?
Well, I don't know if I'm getting sick or not, and I don't have the freedom to choose not to be sick.
Okay, so whereas in the formal and formless realm, guaranteed they don't become sick. Sickness is only with the desire realm.
But then they will die. So,
They will die, yes.
So then change sickness for dying, and it's the same kind of thing, right?
Okay, what you're saying makes sense. What is making sense? Okay, we need to articulate a little bit extra. Okay, Kunjana.
I think he's right. It's a lack of freedom. We cannot choose what we are experiencing because of the involuntary pull and push.
Okay. Okay, Kunjana is coming up with a very good answer. Okay, so what the Okay, let us not forget this. What Gunyana said, involuntary pull and push. Involuntary pull and push, let us not forget this. Right? For the time being, let us keep that aside. This is very important. Let's keep that aside for the time being. Let's say that we talked about the desire realm, the three realms within samsara. Desire realm, then form realm, formless realm, three realms. So, of the three sufferings, the first suffering is only in desire realm. Let us not forget this. First suffering of suffering is only in desire realm, not in the form and the formless realm. Let us not forget this. Number one. Then, in other words, in the desire realm, all three suffering are there. In desire realm, all three suffering are there. And in the form realm is further divided into four. Form realm is further divided into four. It's very simple. First concentration, second concentration, third concentration, fourth concentration. The four concentrations, 4 levels. Of the 4 levels, the second suffering of change, it exists within desire realm plus the first 3 form realm. Suffering change exists only in the desire realm and the first 3 form realms, not in the third, not in the fourth form realm, and not in the formless realm. So now what kind of suffering exists in the fourth form realm and the formless realm is only the third one, the pervasive conditioned suffering. Okay, now can you think of some of the problems which pervasive conditioned suffering should be a suffering which exists in all 3 realms, pervasive meaning something which extends to all 3 realms. Pervasive meaning something which extends to all 3 realms. So, say, can we think of any problem which pervades in all 3 realms? Sophie? Contaminant karmas, this is good. Anyone else? Ignorance, very good. Desire, yes, 100%. Okay, so look, in terms of the problems, let's say the problems, involuntary birth happens in all 3. You agree with me? Involuntary birth. Okay, do you like voluntary birth or involuntary birth? Huh? Voluntary birth, not involuntary. Involuntary has a connotation of some problem there. So involuntary birth is something which exists in all 3 realms. Involuntary birth is one example of pervasive conditioned suffering. Number 1. Number 2, some of you spoke about affliction, some of you spoke about attachment, some spoke about ignorance, some spoke about karmas, contaminant karmas. Okay, let's put it in a proper wording. Let's say, we being under the sway of contaminated karmas and afflictions, being under the control. Who want to be under the control of the contaminated karmas and afflictions? Who is happy to be under the control of the afflictions and the contaminated karmas? No one. Which means that the moment we say being under the control of the contaminated karmas and afflictions means this is something wrong. Something wrong means this is suffering. I don't like it. So that is something. Being under the control of contaminated karmas and afflictions exists in all 3 realms. That is pervasive conditioned suffering. Right? Okay. Then also there's mention of, okay, we talked about feelings. Feelings, there are 3 kinds of feelings. What are 3 kinds of feelings? Pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling. Okay, unpleasant feeling we classify this as what suffering? Unpleasant feeling we classify that as suffering of suffering. Pleasant feeling, not all pleasant feeling. Buddhas also have pleasant feeling. That's not suffering of change. But samsaric or mundane, contaminated the pleasant feeling falls under which category of suffering? Suffering change. Now what is left of the three feelings? What is left? Contaminated neutral feelings is left. Contaminated neutral feelings exist in all three realms. So contaminated neutral feelings is also an example of pervasive conditioned suffering. Let's not forget this. And then finally, the best understanding of the pervasive conditioned suffering, or the best understanding of suffering, or the best understanding of samsara is involuntary pull and push. Okay, this we will understand only if we understand emptiness. If we don't understand emptiness, this involuntary pull and push will make no sense to us. Okay, but when we say involuntary pull and push, we add this word involuntary pull and push, automatically the moment something is involuntary, I don't want it. Right? The moment something is involuntary, then I don't like it. It has a connotation of suffering. Involuntary pull and push. So what is that? If you understand this pertaining to your personal benefit, this is the greatest meaning, this is the greatest gift of the Buddha's teachings for us. If you understand what is meant by involuntary pull and push, precise meaning of involuntary pull and push, this is, and then of course for Buddha Dharma, the teachings of Buddha have two gifts for us. Gift for personal benefit, gift related to the benefit for others too. Of the two, gifts related to the oneself, this is the to know what is meant by involuntary pull and push. Involuntary pull and push. If you notice involuntary pull and push, very precisely you notice, you understood what samsara is. Then working to get out of this, you will understand the real understanding of renunciation and nirvana. You will precisely understand what nirvana is. Once you understand what nirvana is, then the desire to achieve that nirvana becomes a genuine understanding of the renunciation. So look how they are all interconnected. They are so beautiful. Okay, so let's not forget this involuntary pull and push. Let's not forget this. Okay, with this, what we learned is they related to the four seals. Four seals, all composite things impermanent. Okay, let's go back to the original track. The four seals. What's the first seal? All composite things are impermanent. And all composite things are impermanent, it has two connotations. The gross, two kinds, gross and the subtle. Okay, so when the Buddha taught impermanent, we have to understand both. We have to meditate in both, the gross and the subtle. Gross, where the continuum terminates, and the subtle, where we understand composite phenomena to undergo momentary change. Momentarily things are moving. This is so important for us to know. Okay, and what I would suggest is that in this very busy life, with your jobs, with the household responsibilities, and so forth, if you're free, that's one thing. Then you can sit for retreats. Retreats to meditate on impermanence, to meditate on the four seals. Just say if you have like 1 week, just focus on the four seals meditation, practice of the four seals, retreat of the four seals. And say to those of us who have busy jobs and so forth, and even if you have like 2 long weekends, like 2 days, 3 days off, then you can sit for retreat for 3 days. Sit for retreat for 2 days even. That is also fine. So there, say if there is a possibility for you to go somewhere. Go somewhere meaning, say you and your friend, two of you can exchange your rooms. But because where you stay, your friends will come, right? Or in a way, in the West, in any ways, they will not come randomly, right? They just will not bump in without warning. They will call you. So you have to inform them way ahead of time that okay, So for the next 2 days, I will not be available. You don't have to say I'm on retreat. It's just I'm not available. Right? And those people who you feel so comfortable and so easy, you can tell them that I'm sitting for 2 days retreat. Okay, and then you sit for the retreat. Just meditate on the gross impermanence, subtle impermanence. Okay. How to meditate on subtle impermanence? This requires a tremendous intellectual rigor. It doesn't mean that you should be very sharp. This is not the point. We have to use this is known as analytical meditation. It's not a single point of meditation. Analytical meditation. For the all meditation impermanence, meditation suffering, meditation on the emptiness and so forth, all these meditations, and bodhicitta meditation, compassion meditation, they all involve analytical meditation. And then once you get some experience, then you can blend the analytical with the single point of meditation. You can blend the two at one point. But the basic framework of your meditation on these must be analytical. Okay. For that matter, how do we meditate on the subtle impermanence? Let's say 2018, we planted the Bodhicitta tree. We planted Bodhicitta tree. Do you remember? What Tenzin, do you remember? What Hamu, you remember? What Hamu, you remember that? Oh, good. Patrick, you remember? Okay. Kathy, you remember? Okay, good. Daniela, remember that? Okay, we all remember that, right? The Bodhicitta tree. So let's say that Bodhicitta tree we planted in the form of, we plant that as already a big tree. Let's say that we plant a seed. And then in 10 years' time, it go to a 10 feet tall tree. And then suddenly we end up there, we said, oh, 10 years ago there was no tree there. Yes, you're right, but you planted this, your group planted this. And if you think carefully, look, you're surprised. Why? Because you see the change, you see the impermanence. 10 years ago there was no tree. Now after 10 years you see the big tree. The change is there. The change is impermanent. You are seeing the impermanence. This is a gross impermanence. So you have to meditate on the subtle impermanence. So this very obvious change that you see is possible. This gross change is possible only if there is this the underlying subtle impermanence. This change, over 10 years change, is possible only if there was a change going on every year. Yearly, the tree must be growing like one foot each. The change that you see in 1 year is possible only if there's a change happening on the monthly. 1 month, 1 inch. The change you will see in the month, 1 month, is possible only if there is a change happening on the daily, day by day. Change that you see, okay, do you see the change that is happening over 1 day's time? Do you see the change? You keep looking at the flower. Do you see the flowers drooping? You don't see that. But the change that happens in the day is possible only if the change is happening within the 24 hours. First hour, second hour, third hour. The change you see within 1 hour is possible only if there's a change happening on the first minute, second minute, third minute. The change that you see in a minute, okay, let's say the wall clock. Okay, let's say this clock, wall clock, bigger wall clock, say the minute hand. If you look at the wall clock, do you see the minute hand change that you see in the minute hand moving? Do you see that? Huh? Minute hand moving or not moving? If you look at the wall clock. If you look at the wall clock, very big wall clock, tower clock, you may see the minute hand moving. But for the smaller wall clock, we cannot see the minute hand moving. If you can see the minute hand moving, your eyes must be very special. You will not see the minute hand moving. How do we see the minute? If you want to see the minute hand moving, then you have to wait. You have to go out for a few minutes. Then come back. Then you see that it's moved. But you have not seen it is moving. You see moved. You have not seen moving. You're getting it? Okay. So the minute hand you don't see moving. But the second hand, do you see the moving? Second hand. Yes. Okay. So the change that is happening on the minute by minute, that is possible only if the change is happening on the second by second. That change that you see in second and second, this is something visible. This is something visible. Now the change that you see in the 1 second is possible only if the change is happening on the millisecond level. Right? 1 second split into how many segments? Millisecond.
1000.
Hey, tell me. 1 second split into how many segments? 1000 segments, millisecond. Right? Okay, now look. How does the millisecond moves? Fast or slow? Millisecond, how does it move? Millisecond.
Very fast.
Slow or very fast?
Very fast.
Very fast. Our eyes cannot catch the movement. It's so fast. The 1 second split into 100 divisions. For example, minute mobiles. You have the stopwatch, you have the timer. Most of them are split into 1 second split into 100 segments. Okay, do you have a mobile? Yes, check it. Just check. Just press the timer and see how the 1 second split into 100 moves. Okay, show it to others. This one is very good. Show it to others. Do you see that? Okay, do you see that it's moving? How does it move? It is move slowly or it moves so fast? This is how that tree is moving. That tree, 10 feet tall tree is moving at this pace. This wall that we are seeing, look at this wall. This wall, do you see that it's moving like this fast? We don't see it like this. It's so steady. This is deception. It's actually moving at that pace. Moves so fast. And your body, do you see your body moving that fast? No. You look at the other person sitting next to you, very quick. So to see how that person is moving. You don't see the person moving at all. You get it? In actuality, the person is moving so fast. For example, in my case, but now the grey hairs are coming up. Right? When I was like 10, 15, 20, my hair was so nice. Now the grey hairs are coming here, there. It's not that overnight, okay, till today, all black hair. And suddenly, 2019, July 4th? July 4th, oh, now you're already 50, grey hair should come. Suddenly all grey hairs come out. No, it's very gradual. This is how the change was happening in my body, in your body, on the walls. This is reality. If we don't meditate on this, we will see the impermanent phenomena as permanent. Misconception. We'll see the impermanent phenomena as permanent. If you meditate on this, constantly meditate on this, think about it, and of course conducive factors must be created, think about it, then gradually you will see that this is how a mind works. Gradually you will see that, for example, the music, how many of you practice music? Keyboard, piano? Okay, anybody practice keyboard or piano? No? What music did you practice? Anybody? Jane? Huh?
Clarinet is like a flute.
Flute? Do you play nice? Okay, Jane is afraid that we may request her to play. Okay, anybody who plays music? Yes, Laura, what music do you play? Piano. Okay. You went to practice, first practice that.
I was about 4 years old.
Okay, 4 years old. First you press the piano, then music came out?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Nice music came out. The first time you press the key. Huh?
Not nice music.
Not nice. Now, very nice. Right? Anybody else? Okay. Tell me. But if this was what when I was in school, nowadays I don't play music. When I was in school, when I was young, age 10, 11, 12, I used to play the flute. I used to play the Tibetan guitar. I used to play the mouth organ. I used to play that. And at one point, I was so fascinated because Trashila plays the mouth organ so well. In the school, he was the best mouth organ player. Yes. So what I noticed was that the first when I practiced playing the flute, I had to be so mindful which finger to pick up, which finger to put down, and no music coming out. No music there. It's so boring to listen to what I'm doing. And after a while, it was really coming nice music coming out. And then I was observing how I was lifting my fingers, putting it down. It was my mind. I could not really imagine which finger is being automatically happening. Automatically happening. So this automatic reflex reaction of the fingers is happening because of the practice. You agree with me? Because of the practice, this automatic, the fingers going up, down, and the very nice music coming out is happening because of the practice. Likewise, we meditate on impermanence. With the practice over time, you will see things as literally moving like this. Okay, for that matter, we have to create a conducive factor, and we have to practice it. Okay, say if I tell you that if you are running the startup, if you're going for a startup, you want to start a business, and then you need what? Investment. You need people to invest in this. Then I said, oh, don't worry, Thomas, don't worry, I will invest, right? I will be an investor, and I will invest €1 million. Wow, Thomas so happy, Thomas so happy, right? Right now he said, wow. Okay, and then it's just for 2 days. Then instead, what happens when I said I will invest €1 million? He becomes so happy. The next time I said that, the next moment I said it for 2 days. Instantly his face drops. Why? Because it's so transitory, such a short span of time, ephemeral. Such a short span of time, right? What's the use? What can I do with this? Likewise, we see that all compulsive things are like this, like giving you a loan for 2 days. No meaning. This is what we are bound to experience if we meditate on impermanence. Then we will see the triviality of the samsaric happiness. Triviality, the meaninglessness of the samsara. These all are small children's games, small children's happiness. Which means that your mind is evolving. Your mind is evolving. For the small children, the toys are very important. Do you agree with me? For the small children, kids, for small children, age 2, 3, 4, 5, the toys are very important. Do you agree with me? Yes. So when you are already age 20 or 25, which gift do you prefer? iPhone X or toy? Hey, on your birthday, when you're age 5, when you're age 3, which do you prefer? Toy or iPhone X?
Galaxy S10.
Huh?
Galaxy S10.
You prefer the toy when you were age 2, 3. When you were age 20 or 25, oh, I remember last time I met you when you were 2 years old, you were so full of toys. Now I have a birthday gift toys, more toys here, you are already age 20. Right? Do you prefer the toys or iPhone X?
It's the toys.
Huh?
It's the toys now.
Huh?
iPhone X is the toys.
Okay. Toy in the literal sense, right? Okay. So the teddy bear toy, right? Do you prefer? You're already age 20, like 23, right?
iPhone X.
Huh?
iPhone X.
Okay, you don't like the teddy bear toy. You prefer the. Okay. So look, this is what I'm saying. You are becoming more mature. You are becoming more mature. So when you're very young, is seen as so nice. When you become more mature, this is small children's games. Likewise, when we are not mature, we see the subtle change as happiness. When we are more mature in our thinking to see everything as impermanent, so fast, transitory, moving like this, experientially through meditation, you become very mature. When you become very mature, all what otherwise we consider as happiness, we are seen as very trivial, small children's games, toys. Okay, so this is about the all composite things impermanent. Then the question arises, if this is how all the composite phenomena, they are moving so fast, if this is how they are moving so fast, the next question is, what we now, we are moving so fast in the future. Moving so fast. Imagine there's somebody, so you are just casually roaming around a train station, and somebody picks you up and throws you in a very fast moving train. Are you happy or not happy? Huh? Oh, what a free ride. Are you happy or not happy? Not happy at all. Why you're not happy? You don't know where this train is taking you. And the faster the train runs, more the fear. Yes, no? Do you agree with me? Yes. Faster the train runs, more the fear. So we see that more we meditate on impermanence, we see that we are moving in a very fast train. So who decides where this train is taking you? The train is taking you to picnic spot or to the torture house? Who decides? Huh? No, the train. Okay, don't think about the ignorance. Don't think about the philosophy of the timing. Right? Okay, I'm talking about the train. Who decides? The driver decides. Right? The driver decides. The driver. If the driver is your mother, for sure the faster train, better it is. It will take you to the picnic spot. But if the driver is either the terrorist or the driver is under the dictate of the terrorist, it will take you to the torture house. Right? In our case, we are moving so fast, our body is moving so fast. And so we see our body as static, okay, I'm fine, I'm young. No, it's simply because we don't meditate on impermanence. If we meditate on impermanence, literally we see that our bodies move so fast, our mind is moving so fast, we are aging so fast. Where am I going? I'm like being thrown in a very fast moving train. Where am I going? It is determined by the driver. Which driver? Our mind. And in our case, the mind, there's nothing wrong with this mind. But this mind is with the dictate of the terrorists. Which terrorists? Contaminations. Contaminations. What are contaminations? Two worst contaminations, two worst terrorists. Self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude. Two terrorists. As long as we are under the sway, under the force, under the control of these two terrorists, these two will never take us into a picnic spot. They will only take us to torture house, slaughterhouse, or the torture house. Okay. So with this, the point is the second line. After knowing the impermanence, subtle impermanence, then it will invariably take us to understand all contaminated things are suffering nature. As long as we are under the sway, under the control of the contaminations, the worst of which are the self-grasping, ignorant, self-centered attitude, it will only take us to the suffering. All contaminated things are suffering nature. This is the second line. So the first understanding of the first line links us to understanding the second line. Combining the two, then we say that wherever we are in samsara, we are moving so fast, impermanence. With this impermanence, as long as I'm under the sway of the self-grasping, self-centered, two contaminations, I will only end up in suffering. All contaminated things are suffering nature. What kind of suffering? Sickness, aging, death, tension, depression, anxiety, anguish. All these undesirable things happening, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. This is what is happening. And if you think very carefully, say, I remember one of my friends, he lost his mother, and he was very close to the mother. He lost his mother, and then after about a few months, he told me something which was so moving. What he said was that, no, I don't see any meaning in my life. I don't see any meaning in my life. Because when I see some people walking in the street, I see a bunch of ash moving. Literally, you could see a bunch of ash moving. Because he loved his mother so much, and he lost his mother. And he saw the cremation of the mother. And then finally, the mother who he loved so much, now turned into ash, bunch of ash. He saw this, and it just broke him down so much to the extent that literally his perceptions are all being affected. His psyche was affected by that loss. So he just, saying what Dominic said, just surviving, not really living, no point in living. And then the mind is so filled, the whole world seems to be so gloomy, sad, dull, meaningless, hollow. And when he sees people walking, or what they call is enjoying, there's nothing really enjoyment there. It's just a bunch of ash moving here and there. This is what he was saying. Look, this is reality. One moment of suffering, acute suffering, is good enough to nullify all the past experiences of merriments, happiness, festivities, joys, the parties, so forth. They are just all are nullified by one moment of such a severe suffering. This is reality. This is reality. If we think of this, all contaminated things of suffering nature, when will this suffering come? When will this suffering come to an end? When will it come to an end? This is a question. No, it will never come to an end unless and until we put effort. Because this suffering falls under the category of the third kind, which will come to an end only if we put effort, otherwise it will never come to an end on its own. It will perpetuate endlessly. And some people who have no clue about these problems, but they think is that, okay, if I commit suicide, then the problem is over. No, this is not how the problem ends. How to bring an end to this problem? One time I was with the friend who is a professor, very senior and very respected professor. And then we were having lunch together with him and his wife. The three of us were having lunch together. And they were taking care of, some stray animals. And the wife was asking about some problem. So I talked about the next birth and so forth. Then suddenly she said, no, I'm fed up with this life. I'm fed up with samsara. I'll not come back to samsara anymore. This is what she said. What she said is coming from the heart. But is it that easy, this question? Oh, I'm fed up with samsara. Right? Of course, she saw what samsara is. She saw what samsara is, meaning the manifest suffering. Which suffering she saw? Which of the three sufferings she saw? The first one. She just saw the first one. Sickness, aging, death, the pain of losing near and dear ones, and so forth, and corruption, fights, and abuse. She saw all these around. She was fed up with this. She said, I'm not going to come back to samsara anymore. If it is that easy, amazing. But it is not. So because samsara, which although we dislike, but if we don't know how to get rid of the cause of the suffering, the samsara will never come to an end on its own. We have no choice. So what should we do? If you don't want to experience this suffering continuously, what should we do? We have to get rid of the final cause of the suffering. What is the final cause of the suffering? Self-grasping ignorance. How to get rid of the self-grasping ignorance? we have to ignite the light of the wisdom. Which wisdom? This is the point. Okay, let's say this is very important. This is very important. This is how we structure. We get a proper structure of the dharma, right? This is so important. Okay, let's say I come to Kalachakra Center here, and then they say from my body language, you could see that I'm a little scared. From my body language, I'm a little scared. You can feel that. And then Venerable Elizabeth Love said, Geshe, don't be afraid. There's no tiger in this area. There's no tiger in this area. Don't be afraid. Is it true or not? Is there a tiger around this area or not? There's no tiger. That's true. But still my fear does not go away. There's no tiger in this area. Is it this thought that there's no tiger in this area? Is this a valid mind or a mistaken mind? It's a valid mind. It's a valid mind. Even this valid mind cannot remove my fear. Okay. Then Virginia 18 comes. Virginia 18 comes and says, Geshe, don't be scared. Have no fear. Because this elephant is free of elephants. This space is free of elephants. No elephants or say no snakes are around. Is it true or not? There's snakes or not? Huh? There's some small ones. There's no python around. Is it true or not? That's very true. But still I have the fear. I have the fear. Tell me, so you want to get rid of my fear. You don't want to see me in fear. You want to get rid of my fear. So how will you help me? So two of them cannot help me. Anybody? Hey, you don't want to help me. Sophia. And Sophia?
What are you afraid of?
Huh?
I will ask you first.
Yes, this is wise, right? And Sophia, don't tell me that, because there is no wild cats. There are only two domestic cats. Instead of saying that, you can say, Geshe, what are you afraid of? Then I'll say that I'm afraid of malaria. Malaria? Because of what? Mosquitoes. I'm scared of mosquitoes. So it is not just to eradicate your fear, it is not sufficient to just introduce one wisdom. A very specific wisdom must be introduced. Very specialized wisdom. The wisdom which directly encounters or directly contradicts or directly combats with the ignorance pertaining to the object of apprehension. Wisdom must be directly in opposition with the ignorance pertaining to the object of apprehension, ignorance which is responsible for your fears of life. So we have to resort to a very specialized wisdom. We have to resort to a very specialized wisdom. Okay. The next question is, what's the wisdom? The wisdom is the discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the reality. Wisdom is the discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the reality. What's your next question? What will be the next question? What I said is that we have to introduce wisdom. What's wisdom? Wisdom is the discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the reality. What is your next question?
What is reality?
What's the reality? Very good. What's the reality? The reality is indicated by the Buddha in the third seal. Third seal. That's the third seal. What's the third seal?
Everything is in nature of emptiness and selflessness.
Everything is of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. This is reality. Okay, so this takes us to the understanding of emptiness. Okay, we'll stop here. Huh? Dedication. Okay, yes. Dedication. Okay, page 284. Page 284, dedication. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful cherishes Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Just as a brave magician and summon the Bhakta too realize things as they are, also I dedicate all this merits in the best way that I may follow the perfect example. I dedicate all this merit. Okay. Okay. Page number? Or you will say this together once more. Yes. In the land and circle of snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful channels, the Tenzin Gyatso, please remember until samsara ends. Just as a brave magician summoned about the truth, realize things as are. Also, I dedicate all this merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these fruits of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by all the Buddhas who appeared in the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deed. Chanju Sanjo Memoche Magya Banam Gyoche Gyabanyam Banamabayam Gone Kodu Pevaisho. May the Supreme Bodhicitta that is not arisen, the rising grow, and may that which is arisen not diminish but increase forevermore. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then they are true remain in this but of the views of the world. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, I will attain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all beings without exception into the enlightened state. I dedicate the merit thus gathered towards the realization of the deeds and the prayers of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas over 3 times, and to the upholding of the Dharma of teaching and realization. May I have all life through the course of this merit, never separate from the 4 wishes of the Mahanagarico, all stages of path, renunciation, bodhicitta, through the 2 stages. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I shall demand a full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the Triple Gem, I confess the negativities individually, I rejoice in the virtues of all the days, I hold the precious Buddha in my heart. A powerful union of emptiness and compassion is loosely explained by the fraternal Buddha, Dharma, and the Bhishma Snowland. To the lotus hold the Tenzin Gyatso, we supplicate you the wishes of fulfilled spontaneously. May the operations of evil thoughts and deeds, of the negative forces of humans and non-humans, who however manage through perverted prayers against the teachings of the Buddhas, be truly vanquished through the prophet truth of the 3 truths. In all my life, never separate from perfect gurus, enjoy the manifested Dharma, by completing the qualities of the stations of the paths, may could attain the state of Vajradhara. Throughout my future lifetimes, may always be guided by the Nutri and be able to uphold the Dharma in general and the teachings of the Contemplation in particular, even though it cost my life. Put your positions together.